I'm just so thankful for being here. Today's my first ever live event of yours. Somebody asked me when I was sitting there, have you been to the show yesterday? Then I said, actually, I just saw her yesterday on YouTube. So my question is, actually, my life is amazing. So I've been focusing on so many other things like, healing and all that stuff. Everything happens naturally. But my question is to add to somebody who was here from McKinney. So how do I make $1 billion?
By wanting it and believing it. Just the way you said billion made it sound unlikely, made it sound too amazing to even consider. It was like the difference between knowing and belief. How could I make $1 billion? Sounded a little like that. Did it feel like that?
Not really. It's like I see the visions of it, everything happening and everything aligning, but I think I'm in a rush to hit that number.
Let us give you some things that will help you here. We're just going to make a series of statements, and don't try to memorize them, just take them in, let them wash over you. One who's connected to this stream of non-physical consciousness is more powerful than millions who aren't. You can't even stack up those comparisons in any meaningful way. Esther can't even find accurate words to describe the differences in the power and therefore the productivity of that energy stream in comparison with the action and the way most people are approaching life. It's just really, really big. Through your life experience, even before you got here, you were streaming energy, and you've streamed equivalency of billions and billions and billions and billions of, if you want to call them dollars, you could call them vibrational credits into your vortex. Energy, it's like, what would you pay? How would someone accurately calculate it and charge it and get it from you? How do you pay for your fair share of the sunlight that you personally falls on your body every year? As you divide the value of that up by the billions on your planet, how do you calculate that? Of course, it's a ridiculous question. There's no point in calculating it because there's nobody asking you to pay it, but still it is an energy that comes to you that is separate and apart from money, that is of enormous value to you. We're just trying to get your thoughts to loosen up just a little bit, to begin to explore vibration and feel about it like you do about money, resources, resource money, resource clarity, resource energy, resource. So now we want to throw a couple of statements in. It's as easy to create a castle as a button, because the process is the same. Want it and don't doubt it. Well, the button, obvious. Want a button, don't want your pants to fall down. No point in doubting it. There's buttons everywhere. Seems like a silly question. Castle button. Castles might seem more like the $1 billion thing, harder to find and harder to acquire, but they are not. The point that we want to express in a way that you can take it in is that if this time and space has the wherewithal to inspire within you a desire, then it's in the vortex and it's a done deal. Therefore, this time and space has the inspired impulses and wherewithal to deliver the goods. The key is to not demand it to be given to you instantaneously, although it could. But the key is to allow yourself to let it come, here are the key words, in perfect accordance with your ability to allow it in. So it isn't the bigness or the smallness of the request, it's the openness or closedness of your willingness to allow it or expect it. So how do you expect big things? Well, by expecting smaller things and acknowledging them. But the thing is, about all the things that you consider small or that you take for granted, like the sunlight, you don't have any natural resistance to them, and so as they come easily, and therefore you don't know you're doing it. Because you associate, we're not just saying you, we're saying most humans associate receiving with struggle. And it's the opposite. The struggle makes it harder and slows it down. It's the absence of the struggle that lets it in. So if we can convince you that that abundance exists, and we can help you find some way of talking about it and feeling about it that doesn't block it from you letting it in. It's like it's raining down around you, but you've got an umbrella up because you've been taught by others. Some of them are very well-meaning and some of them are very controlling, but there are a lot of people that need you to believe that you need to work for them in order to have money, or that you need to struggle in order to have money. And none of that is true. You just have to want it and believe it. That's all. Want it and believe it. That's all. Wayne Dyer wrote a book, When You Believe It, You'll See It. And of course he was playing with the idea that people say, well, I'll believe that when I see it. And he says, you'll see it when you believe it. Well, I'll believe it when I see it. Well, you got to believe it before you see it. With your physical senses, you can see and hear and smell and taste and touch, but that's after it's manifested. That doesn't do you any good. That's after it's manifested. You got to feel it in the vortex. You got to know the difference between happiness and sadness and love and hate. You got to pay attention to the way your thoughts feel, and you got to practice being in the receiving mode, the receiving mode, the receiving mode. And when you're in the receiving mode, we promise you everything that's in your vortex, and there's a whole lot there because you've been putting it there for a long, long time. When you're in the receiving mode, what's in your vortex flows into your experience, and it's so delicious to watch the cleverness of the universe's ability to inspire you to the thoughts and the actions and the impulses that help you to enjoy it as it is unfolding. This thought leads to this, and this thought leads to this, and this thought leads to that rendezvous, and that thought leads to that rendezvous, and that thought leads to that, and that thought leads to that, and all of it's feeling good along the way. It's not desert and thirsty and desert and thirsty and desert and thirsty and desert and thirsty and oasis. You can't have an unhappy journey on your way to a happy ending. It doesn't go like that. It's happy, 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 happy. You see.
Okay. How do you explain, like, so you hit a number, like, maybe $1 million, 2 million, 5 million, whatever, and then you hit there, and then you're looking for the next number, and then suddenly it just drops back down to whatever, tens of thousands. I mean, I'm just talking like dollar values because I guess everybody can associate themselves with money as the...
Well, this is the easiest way to explain this. We are not ever suggesting that there is not compensation for action. You tote enough of something from one place to another, somebody's going to pay you for it. And so people have become pretty efficient in their ability to gather through their actions. But we're talking about this exponential, what you want to call quantum leap. We're talking about accessing this energy that creates worlds. Whether you're talking about a 10,000 or a million, it's all mediocrity in comparison with what's accessible through your vortex. So the way we would explain it is that someone was more hopeful and they allowed the million in, and then they got possessive of it and let it get away. When people get guarded, you're not guarded about $1 million before you have it. And so in their free abandon, they weren't guarded about anything. They just found something that was fun to do, and in their attention to it, often it's just falling in love will do it for you. Then they began letting in what they hadn't let in for a while, and once they let it in, then sometimes they're influenced by others. Hey, you better watch out for that. And then they get guarded, and then it doesn't last. Everything can be explained by the thought that a person is thinking and indicated by the way that they feel as they're thinking the thought. No exceptions whatsoever. No exceptions. Do you believe us when we say that if this time and place has inspired you to a desire, then it can deliver it? If you really believe that, but then there's another factor. How is your belief affected? Well, your belief is affected in part by what others say around you. You might believe something until your mother reminds you of what she's always believed. And when she reminds you of what she's always believed, your belief may waver for a moment. You see what we're getting at? Or you may believe that it's possible, but not for you because you feel unworthy. But you don't have to consider all of that. We can make this really complicated because there's this in the vortex and there's all these routes to it, and your inner being knows what they all are, and you just got to be in the right mood at the right time, and you can just go crazy trying to do that. Or you can just decide, I'm going to be as happy as I can be as often as I can. That's it. I'm just going to be as happy as I can be as often as I can. Which means When I'm complaining about somebody and I feel that tug in my stomach, I'm going to stop it and I'm going to say, my inner being has a different opinion of that, and me complaining about that person is depriving me of my billions. What? It's not on the same subject. I wasn't complaining about money. I was complaining about his dog pooping in my front yard. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter what your reason for pinching yourself off from the well-being that is all lined up for you. Just like it doesn't matter which happy stick you pull out that puts you in a state of allowing. Find something to be happy about as often as you can, and watch everything that you put into your vortex come into your experience. Yeah. Yeah. And don't try to explain nothing to nobody. Because if they're not up to speed with you, they'll say, but remember when you did that, remember when you did that, remember when you did that, and it's not very long before you're not feeling all that frisky. Enough?
Yes, thank you.
Really,
thank you so much.
Really